Hello and welcome to the GameFront podcast. I'm your host, Ron Whitaker, managing editor at GameFront. And as always, I've got the dream team here with me. Video producers Mitchell Saltzman.
Well, hello there.
That kind of sounds like James Heaney. Video producer James Heaney.
Well, hello there.
Oh, hey. It did sound like James.
And, of course, senior editor Phil Hornshaw.
Hey.
So it's been a surprisingly crazy week the last couple of weeks. I remember there was a time when we thought it might not be. I'm not going to say those words ever again.
Yeah, you specifically said we could punch you in the balls if you said that again?
I specifically did say that. But one really exciting thing that's happening with GameFront that everybody should be aware of is Mitch and James are going to be streaming a 2-hour version of a live GameFront Gauntlet on Twitch every Wednesday, and that's at 12 o'clock Pacific, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
12 o'clock.
By 12, he means noon Pacific.
Yes, noon Pacific.
Not midnight.
3 p.m. Eastern. Please, yesterday was our first one. It's about a 2-hour long stream, so you can jump in. Maybe you can't be there for the start, maybe you can't be there at the end, but you can definitely catch some of it. Yesterday was kind of fun. We watched Mitch and James struggle, or let me rephrase that. We watched James struggle with
Whoa.
with
All
some
right,
challenges in Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not sure what you guys have planned for next week, but I'm sure it'll be enjoyable. So, next Wednesday at 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern, make sure you tune in to twitch.tv/GameFront and see what's up with Mitch and James over there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, what are you guys doing next week? Do you know?
No. We made a list of various games that we could try. I think Payday was on there.
Oh boy.
What else? Titan. We probably actually should try Titanfall and do it right this time. Yeah, there's a bunch of games that we have in the pipeline.
Awesome. Well, one game that we can talk about that you won't have in the pipeline just yet. There was a brand new shiny trailer that popped up for Evolve this morning. For those of you that have, I guess, been under a rock somewhere or something, Evolve is the new 4-on-1 asymmetrical shooter from Turtle Rock Studios, the studio that made Left 4 Dead. This one's a little different. They're not doing it under the auspices of Valve. This is a 2K game. And we played a little bit of it at PAX East, a very little bit of it. And then there was a really neat trailer that came out today. So if you haven't seen that, it's over on GameFront, of course. And it basically features 4 players taking on one player who's playing as a gigantic monster. The 4 players have very specific roles that each plays, whether it's assault or medic, trapper, or support. And I don't know, I've got this really weird feeling about Evolve. You stood in the aisle at PAX, Phil, you know what I'm talking about. And they had this ginormous screen that you could watch them play Evolve on. And you're sitting there watching it and thinking, man, this game looks amazing. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. Right?
Yeah. And then we did get our hands on it.
And it wasn't as amazing as we'd hoped.
No, it was not nearly as fun as watching it. Although, okay, so we talked about this on the final PAX podcast. But let's reiterate a little bit because we're writing a bit about it. At first I was like, maybe we shouldn't write about it. But then I've read around a little bit about Evolve at PAX and what other outlets thought of it. And I feel like it. Yeah, I feel like it got like some really good feedback from other sites. Like Kotaku had a little roundtable thing and called it their game of show, which is, totally interesting to me. Like, not to say that their opinion isn't valid, but that was not my experience at all. So, yeah, I thought we were just like, we should be clear that we only played each of us one game, of Evolve.
10 minutes, 15 minutes,
which was
tops.
What was made available to us, as journalists. So that's, it's important to note that while we didn't play much of the game, that's the amount of the game that they let us play so that we could write about it. Right? Exactly. So. Like 2K expected us to, go in and get impressions. So as much as we should couch this opinion in we didn't play much of it, this is also what they gave us, right? So,
Right.
I
mean, it's a strange. I've got this weird feeling, like when we did the wrap-up podcast for PAX. My opinion on Evolve was a little bit different than it is now, which was I was like, oh my god, that's it? That's the whole thing?
Yeah.
I still kind of feel that way, but I've kind of tempered that looking back on it because, I mean, full disclosure, the way that it worked at PAX was you came out of the little demo room where they had showed you a video, and then they stuck you in a line. They're like, okay, they handed you a little wristband that would say trapper or assault or whatever, and they said, okay, go get in that line because that's the class you're playing. And so then when the game started, when a game area opened up, they would take the person in front of each of the lines and stick them at the set them down at the screens and say, there you go. So you didn't have any control over who you played with. You didn't know who you were going to be playing with. And
much like the internet.
Much like the internet.
It should
yes. Surprisingly, this is one time that I had actually had less control over the people I play with than I do on the internet. So it was one of those deals where, like, Phil's experience was very different than mine.
Yeah.
And then...
They had quite a good team, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, my experience was that I think my experience actually embodies a lot of the problems that Evolve might run across as the game launches and gets out in the wild, which is I had a team full of people that sort of wanted to do their own thing. And the way that game is designed, it is not very conducive to that at all. I mean, even in the trailer that came out this morning, if you watch it, just having one person incapacitated or out of the match for a couple of minutes can almost end the game for you. That's how, these classes are very specialized. The assault guy can deal a lot of damage, but the monster can jump on his head.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, and the trapper can hold the monster and sort of hold him in place, but he can't really damage him that much. And, the medic can keep other people alive and do a little damage. And the support guy can shield people and do a little damage, but without all four of those classes working together, it can quickly become, monster snack time. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the big problem, is that the experience I had might be a prevailing one once you get it out into the internet, which is, people not working together, making the game very unenjoyable. I think you're going to have a lot of people buy this game. I think you're going to have a lot of people play this game, and you're going to have a lot of people go, this sucks! I mean, what do you think?
But that's, I think, the real problem with when you do hands-on experiences like that. I think that they should organize it a little better so that you can be with your team of people so you can feel that experience. Granted, online, you're right, you're probably not going to be able to control that. But I don't think it's a very good example of playing the game. And I kind of I don't want to switch subjects, but it was kind of my initial problem with when I looked at Rise of the Incarnates. I don't know the people that I'm with, and I come in there and I was spamming the buttons, so I'm sure everybody was thinking to themselves, I wish I wasn't with this guy. But I mean, you can't help it. When you don't know the people, you're not communicating with them. It's going to affect the way you play a game. This sounds like it's going to be, if you can play it strategically, an amazing game. If people go in there and are all Ramboing it, it's not going to be fun.
Well, and I think that's going to be a big part of it. There are cues that the game gives you that the people that I played with just sort of ignored. The game, the game shows you the monster's footprint so you can help find it. The game shows you things like when the monster goes through the woods, he'll spook birds, and that will be highlighted on your screen in red so you can see it. It really, the game makes an effort to help you find the monster because it's
Ron,
yeah.
Were you the trapper?
I was.
Okay, do you think that and I'm sorry for interrupting, but I was wondering, are those like skills that the trapper got? Like, does everybody see the footprints?
No, everybody sees the footprints.
Yeah, everybody sees them.
Okay.
Yeah,
it would be totally irritating otherwise.
Yeah, I actually asked Phil that. I was like, were you able to see the footprints? Because I was like James. I was thinking, maybe they couldn't see the footprints. Maybe it's just me. But no, they could see the footprints.
No, I think the primary problem was that they were young a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that, and then it's also a bit of a gear switch from your usual first-person shooter play. I mean, most shooters are at their best when everybody is coordinated, but there are plenty that you can get by with never talking. I play Titanfall all the time.
Right.
And never talk to anyone in Titanfall. but that's a game where you can pick up on the clues pretty well of who needs help when and where. And so you can play as a team without having to coordinate as a team. But Evolve is very much a game that's going to live or die by how good a team you play it with. Just like Left 4 Dead, really. I mean, you play Left 4 Dead with a bunch of randos and nobody talks and everybody's just like, whatever, then it's the worst. It's a terrible game. But when you get the right group in there, Left 4 Dead is an amazing game. And it is literally that fast of a switch. So, I mean, it's definitely a best circumstances game, no matter what.
I mean, I think if you get a team, like, let's just say the four of us went in and played against somebody, you know, who's playing as the monster, I think the game would be amazing because the four of us could, you know, get in a voice chat channel, we could communicate, we'd all work together, you know, we'd all do this thing, and it would be great. And I think that would be the exact opposite experience that I had with the game at PAX.
Now, see, I want to go ahead and say that I had a good team, and I don't think that my experience with playing the game and being underwhelmed was related to the group of people I played with. Because I played with a team that was competent, coordinated. Obviously, they had a lot of experience with shooters. We won the battle, and they
Did you win effortlessly, though?
No, we didn't. No, I mean, we had a good fight, but we didn't play badly, any of us, and we were all pretty coordinated as well. For a group of people who had just picked up the game for the first time ever, I felt like we did pretty well, and we had a pretty decent opponent as well. So I thought that as far as playing on the floor, I was in one of the best possible situations, except for having, you know, brought you guys with me, would have been the only way I could have improved on it. That said, I still didn't really have all that much fun. And maybe that's related to the class I was. I was the support class, which, you know, is very much a helping out
Support
other people class. Yeah, I mean, you've got your, like, shield generator thing, which you can shoot a shield to another player. It's like a beam. And it's pretty sticky, too. It's kind of like the way the Ghostbuster streams, the way they kind of bend and move and avoid things. It's kind of like that, the shield thing. So, like,
It reminds me a lot of the medic gun in TF2.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly.
I was just thinking that.
It's exactly like the medic gun, and the medic gun for the actual medic is like that as well, which is very cool.
And the range on that thing is insane.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I guess the issue I had with it was that we spent so much time chasing the monster around, you know, fighting him, and then just like lost in this huge map, not doing anything, that the battles themselves were not, I felt like, exciting enough to kind of warrant all that downtime. And then the other thing of it is, you know, I've got my like laser cutter, which I don't know why my support guy is carrying around like a cutting tool. Why doesn't he have a gun? But anyway, anyway, I'm blasting away with my laser cutter. The assault guy's blasting away. You know, we've done a good job of trapping and isolating the monster, and we're in a battle with it, and it still doesn't feel like anything is really happening. You know, I mean, it's leaping around, and you're not so mobile that you feel like you're skillfully dodging attacks, and you're not doing enough damage where you feel like you're really skillfully putting yourself through this fight. You know, like I didn't feel like I was kicking ass.
Well, I mean, the whole thing has kind of a desperate feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of chipping away, and here's the thing I think was my biggest issue with it, is that when you play Call of Duty, for example, yeah, there's a lot of, you know, oh, I happened around a corner and found you and shot you in the back. But when you really go one-on-one with somebody, you at least get the feeling that, you know, your skills are playing a major role in who wins that fight. Who's got the better aim, who's got the better reflexes, who's got the better positioning, are all part of what makes that battle fun, and the strategic thinking that you put into it. Whereas Evolve, I didn't get any of that. Like, it's not about like, oh man, I really had a close call there, but I snapped off a headshot and won, you know, or oh, I picked the right position from which to fight the monster, or I executed a great ambush on this other guy and outsmarted him. You know, it's very much just chasing it and shooting at it and chasing it and shooting at it until you finally win or lose.
That's kind of the feeling. I mean, I haven't played it. This is really watching this trailer is pretty much my first experience of really looking at Evolve, and that was kind of the feeling that I got just looking at it. Like, God, it seems like there's nothing really happening, like, on both sides. Like, both sides are able to suck up so much damage, it doesn't feel like you're actually really doing anything. And, yeah,
I mean,
I can see where Phil's coming from.
Yeah.
Right, like coordination between characters or players is going to be very important, but at the same time, it just feels like if you execute your role correctly, it's going to play out the exact same way every single time. You always execute your role according to the script of what your role is. You shield the guy who's getting attacked, you know, you dodge out of the way, you fire off an orbital barrage, and then you shield again. And it's gonna be the same kind of rotation, no matter who you're playing against, or what the situation is. If you've got a decent team,
it sounds like a game built around MMO boss battles, really.
Yeah,
a little bit.
That's what I was going to say. It's like the difference between playing an MMO and going in and mowing down trash mobs or taking out a raid boss. And this game is all about taking out the raid boss, and there are no trash mobs. So I mean, you can kill the little wildlife guys, but I mean, literally, they are the disposable Bond villain henchmen of Evolve.
And maybe people will be into that. You know, I mean, like, people like MMOs, people like re-rating the same dungeons and stuff, right? So I don't know. Maybe they'll be into it, but I wasn't satisfied.
I'm going to be interested to see what Turtle Rock does, because did you notice they said before the game came out there were going to be more monsters and more abilities and stuff? I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of switch up the monster, because that's I think that's the thing that's going to make Evolve kind of unique, is that the monster is a player. It's not, you know, you're not killing an AI raid boss. You're killing a player who's, you know, just as devious as you are. So, or in some cases, maybe more. And, I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see how it does, because I feel like it's a game that's probably going to sell well, because, like you said earlier, watching the trailer, this game looks awesome. I mean,
it does look like fun.
It's a game that I think is going to sell well. I'm going to be interested to see how well it's doing 6 months after launch. You know, are there still going to be a bunch of people playing it, or is it going to be that core group of, you know, 4-player co-op people? I can promise you when Evolve comes out, we will be streaming it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we will probably let James be the monster.
Thank God. I know that you guys don't want me on your team, but I secretly want to be a monster anyway.
Well, you know, so check out the trailer. We've got it up on the site. Phil and I are actually going to have something else about Evolve up later today, sort of a lot like what we're talking about right here. So check that out too, and let us know what you think. Do you think people will play it? Do you think people won't play it? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be interested to see. So, something else very important that happened this week, really important, a lot more important than Evolve, was the net neutrality debate has kind of fired back up. And, you know, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, Phil, why don't you run it down for him real quick, because you've been kind of following this new development here.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so net neutrality, as people are probably aware, is the idea that all the content on the internet should be equally accessible by everyone. Basically, that's saying that you know, nobody has real control over the speed at which you can access different content, right? So it's not like IGN can't pay to get their content loaded to you faster than GameFront can, you know, if we choose not to pay. Does that make sense? I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's all very much about this fast lane, who gets priority over who if they pay for it kind of idea. So
I think the one that affects most people right now is Netflix can't pay a level 3 provider to serve Netflix content faster than, say, Hulu.
Right.
So.
Well, they couldn't up until January,
right,
when that was actually thrown out by an appeals court, because the FCC rules were ruled to be contrary to their own bylaws or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But basically, the gist of it is the appeals court said, no, you can't regulate internet companies this way, and threw that out and opened the door for ISPs to start allowing, faster access to different content if people paid for it. So the FCC had to come back and write new rules, and supposedly they're coming out, I think, even today. And there were reports going around yesterday from both the New York Times and the the Wall Street Journal, and then today I think also the Washington Post, citing high-level sources in the FCC saying that the new rules that were going to come out were going to allow for this fast lane idea and for ISPs to individually negotiate with other companies like Amazon or Netflix, and to allow them, access to the faster content upload to the people who are to you, basically, to you receiving internet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go.
James, go.
I'm upset in a lot of different ways. First of all, full disclosure, I'm pretty anti-government, so I'm going to sound like somebody that is the devil's advocate here, but I actually am not. I'm not siding with them. My question is our internet infrastructure so archaic that we aren't even tapping into the potential? So sure, we could make a fast lane, but isn't the first step giving everybody the same speed that people overseas have? Because if we were all getting those speeds, it would still be faster than anything I think any of us have, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that. I mean, there's a whole other level to this too. It's about ISPs investing in infrastructure and stuff like that.
This really won't so much affect me, you, James, Mitch, as far as our internet speeds go. What it will affect is, regardless of what your connection speed is, how fast will the ISP serve the content to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but those ISPs will never be able to go any faster than our infrastructure, right?
Right, but, what if, let's just say, for example, that, like, to use Phil's example earlier, let's use OneUp, because OneUp doesn't exist anymore. Let's just say that OneUp paid a $5,000 a month fee to their internet provider to serve their pages twice as fast as GameFront's pages. So if you went to IGN for your news, the pages would load twice as fast as GameFront's would, because GameFront's would be throttled and IGN's would not.
Yeah, but twice as fast is such a relative number. Because if you have an internet speed that is like, this might be ignorant. Is it like 100 gigs a second or something? Like, there's some ridiculous speeds. I don't know what they are, but 50% of that is still like, if they slowed things 50% from the fastest overseas, that's still probably faster than 100% we have here.
Well, but I mean, obviously they're going to make it in a way that's worthwhile to the people who are paying.
Right.
So it's going to be a drastic enough difference between your content loading and my content loading
that I will pay you for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there has to be an upside to that business model.
Well, the real problem is then there is no reason for them to actually advance our ISPs right now, because they're going to still be working on how to slow other people down. They don't want to speed everybody up. Their interests will then be in how to slow people down.
Well, I mean, there's that's a point anyway, and we're not moving real quick toward faster internet in any case, because again, the ISPs who own and control all the infrastructure really don't have any sort of major incentive to invest in better connectivity. Well, that's just the situation we're in right now. But
let's face it, there's no monetary incentive for it, because there's no competitor coming in and doing it better. So you either take the Time Warner cable in your area and you get your 50 megs per second or whatever for $70 a month, or you don't, and you don't have the internet. Which
and that's a whole nother issue about the way we allow because cable companies control how internet is distributed, which is really kind of a big problem. If you look at it in the broad view, what happened was when cable was ramping up, because they had to put infrastructure into these cities and everything, they would actually get franchises with municipalities. They would, contract with the government, put in the cable lines, and then they would be the provider of cable in that area. You know what I mean? It was kind of a quid pro quo situation. Now what's happened is that those franchises are allowing for like one provider in an area. Like for my for an example, I'm stuck with Time Warner Cable where I am in Los Angeles. I don't have a choice. There's nobody else who provides internet in this neighborhood. And so I'm just stuck with whatever Time Warner has to give me. And like you said, they have no incentive to do a better job because they have no competition.
No,
and then this whole net neutrality thing is a whole nother can of worms on top of that.
Well, here's the FCC under the proposal said an FCC official, and this is on PC World. I'm just using their quote. They have a quote from an agency official at the FCC that said, under this proposal, broadband providers would be required to offer a baseline level of service to their subscribers, along with the ability to enter into individual negotiations with content providers. In all instances, broadband providers would need to act in a commercially reasonable manner, subject to FCC review on a case-by-case basis. And that the FCC would seek public comment on exactly what the baseline level of service would be and the construction of a commercially reasonable standard and the manner in which they would resolve these disputes. Now, the problem with all of this, and just like you said before we started the podcast, Phil, is that the definition of commercially reasonable is completely malleable. Even the definition of content is completely malleable. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just legalese right now. It means nothing. And like you said, content is a totally nebulous term potentially. And the whole situation is even if it's just, I have a feeling that what they're actually driving at with these FCC rules, which we haven't seen yet, what I have a feeling they're going to be doing is trying to regulate streaming, which is the thing that that sucks up the most bandwidth.
Right.
The FCC rules are going to allow for ISPs to charge streaming companies more, namely Netflix, right? That's what and they're trying to, I think, limit the rest of that sort of negotiated content idea for websites, so that people who are upset about net neutrality will at least have something to hold on to. You know what I mean? They're trying to limit the amount to which they're screwing everybody.
Yeah.
But it's a slippery slope, I think, and it's a step in the wrong direction no matter what.
I mean, it's a really weird situation because last night we had the supposedly leaked set of quote unquote rules that said that this content would throttling or negotiation, whatever you want to call it, would be allowed. And then this morning, the chairman of the FCC, Tom Wheeler, basically issued a statement saying that all of that was wrong.
Right.
He said there are reports that the FCC is gutting the open internet rule. They are flat out wrong. Tomorrow we will circulate to the Commission a new open internet proposal that will restore the concepts of net neutrality consistent with the court's ruling in January. There is no turnaround in policy. The same rules will apply to all internet content. As with the original open internet rules and consistent with the court's decision, any behavior that harms consumers or competition would not be permitted. Now, again, that's a lot of words that don't add up to any conclusive statement.
Well, I mean, it is, a pretty full-throated, like as Ross Lincoln would say, he's writing a thing for the Escapists that I was reading earlier today. It's an endorsement for the FCC backing net neutrality, but it doesn't specifically
rule out.
It doesn't rule out at all what the reports are saying is going to happen, which is that, the content I think that they're going to be focused on is not really content, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like that's how I think it seems like they're going to go around this. In order to say, oh, well, we're still promoting the open internet. The internet part is open. It's the streaming part that's not. You know what I mean? And that's I think it's the sort of semantic gymnastics that make this sort of thing awful. And so I mean, but this is speculation because we haven't seen the rules. And it was nice to. I mean, that statement was positive. I'm hoping that in fact that's what happens. And we don't see any throttling of any sort, But to see these reports that come from anonymous sources, but to come from numerous well-known and respected newspapers. Like I said, New York Times had a report and the Wall Street Journal had a report independent of one another. And then the Washington Post had a report this morning saying, yeah, but the rules are still coming and they still are what we thought they were. Right? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be every time something like this pops up, whether it was SOPA or, net neutrality or anything, there's such an outcry that it seems like whatever rule they originally proposed is never the rule we end up with.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I almost feel like that maybe this is a thing where they leaked that out to see what kind of response it got. Almost like they call it a trial balloon. And then they're like, oh, no, you know what? We're not doing that. That's totally crazy. Who told you that? No way.
Yeah, and I mean, we often kind of see, I think, like you said, if we're going to buy the sort of conspiracy theory idea that maybe they leaked it on purpose, then it follows that what the real plan was something scaled back, and that now when they release that scaled back thing, everybody will kind of breathe a sigh of relief and go, oh man, it's not as bad as we thought. I mean, it's kind of a compromise, but at least it's not that awful compromise. I mean, look at the Xbox One. That worked out.
I was going to say.
That's kind of the way the same thing played.
Look, you're still going to
it looks like it's going to suck, but it sucks a lot less, so I guess
you still have to have Connect, but at least we're not going to be, forcing you to always be online.
Right. Could be worse.
Yeah.
You can take the small compromise because the big compromise was avoided.
Well, I mean, that happens in every field, whether it's politics or video games, or it's just like gas prices, right? Gas goes up from 99 cents. I'm sorry. Let me show my age. I remember when gas was 79 cents a gallon, and it went up to $1.09 a gallon, and everybody panicked. And then it went back down to 99 cents a gallon. Everybody was really excited. And I was like, but it's 20 cents more than it was a month ago.
Right.
They're like, but it's 10 cents cheaper than it was a week ago.
Yeah, exactly.
The same mentality that runs that.
Oh my God.
So, it's not good. It's not good at all.
And we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll have more about it on the site.
We've already got a post up now. You can read. It kind of runs down what happened last night and talks about a bit of... The really weird, spooky stuff about all this is that Tom Wheeler, the chairman of the FCC, he used to be a lobbyist
for the cable
telecom
companies.
Yeah, for like 40 years. Yeah. So that's a little fishy. And,
well, you need to get somebody who understands the problem in order to be able to fully work for the FCC, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, in theory,
I'm kidding.
No, I mean, I get where you're going, and I think that was kind of the idea. When
wink, nudge, nudge.
Theoretically, quote unquote idea, when he was appointed, it was like, oh, this guy knows telecom. I mean, he was appointed by President Obama, who has been a big, very vocal supporter of net neutrality all the time, and the FCC has been really good about net neutrality for the entire Obama administration. That's important to note as well. However, they still appointed a guy who used to work for cable. So, I mean, I don't know. It still definitely looks...
Was there just not a lot of applications?
I mean, look, if you want somebody that is in the business, it didn't matter, I guess devil's advocate saying, it wouldn't matter, okay, we're not going to appoint this guy because he used to work for cable. We'll appoint this guy that worked for the satellite companies.
Yeah.
Or this guy that worked for the cell phone industry. I mean...
And he also had to get through a Senate approval process as well. Like... you can appoint whoever you want when you're president, but the legislative branch still has to confirm them.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a whole other aspect of fucking political.
It's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, whatever. But, I mean, it's convoluted, but the point is, it's bad news bears.
Well, let's stop talking about that. That's just a downer. We'll worry about that when it actually happens. And let's talk about Dragon Age. Oh, wait. That's probably kind of a downer, too. Dragon Age Inquisition finally got a release date. Everybody's excited, right?
I am.
Right?
I mean, I have not really played much of the Dragon Age games, but from what I've heard of Dragon Age Inquisition and what I've seen of how it looks, I'm a little bit excited for it.
Okay, so it's coming out October the 7th. I mean, and it does look cool. personally, I'm kind of a cynic about it. So I really want it to be good because Dragon Age was originally billed as the successor or spiritual successor to the Baldur's Gate series, which is just an amazing set of games. And then they made Dragon Age Origins, and it really was, it was great. It was kind of like the Baldur's Gate series. Not exactly. It was different in a lot of ways. But it was fun. It was a good game. And then they made Dragon Age 2, and it was a game. And
No.
and now they're making Dragon Age Inquisition, and it looks a lot like Dragon Age 2. Now, I know that a lot of you may have seen the article that Phil Owen did on the site where he said Dragon Age Inquisition could learn a lot from Dragon Age 2. Which, if you like Dragon Age 2, I can see where you'd say that. Personally, I think Inquisition could learn a lot from Dragon Age 2 about how not to make Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, well, I thought Owen made good points.
I definitely think that he made good points. And
right. Well,
it's not that he's wrong.
Well, he picked all the
highlight
best
a couple
points.
of them.
Look,
well,
it's not that he's an asshole. He's just wrong. It's okay.
No, that's fair. And you can claim that, but I am behind what he mentioned was good about that game. Which, granted, I have not played any of the Dragon Age games. I know I'm a bad BioWare fan, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I have them both installed on my computer, I just haven't done it yet. But what Owen was saying about Dragon Age, about Dragon Age 2, in which it's grounded in one place, you really get to know all the actors in the conflict of the game all the way through the game, so that when you get to the conclusion or you get to the major conflicts, they matter to you in a very personal way. Like the city matters to you because you live there, you've been there, you're the guy in the city, right? So that, I think, is a really cool idea, and especially as far as fantasy is concerned, because we've got so many Tolkien-esque,
Save the world,
walking forever kind of fantasy games. It's very rare that we get fantasy games that kind of take this other approach. It's a little more of a Game of Thrones versus a Lord of the Rings kind of take. And I think that's cool. And I get behind what he was saying about the game, that when he was giving thumbs up to that sort of idea of making kind of a more realistic take on fantasy, rather than a drop into a city, solve their problems, then take off kind of fantasy.
Right.
Those are all kind of cool ideas.
I think, and I don't think he's wrong on that. I really don't.
Right.
I think those were some cool things about Dragon Age 2. I think that the problem a lot of people have, like me, that liked Dragon Age Origins so much, is that Dragon Age 2 wasn't Origins. It was a poor facsimile thereof. It did away with all the things that made Origins really unique. It did away with the tactical combat, and so all the it became more of a third person action game.
Right.
And my theory on it still is that I don't know if any of you guys played Origins on console. No?
That is my first experience with Origin was on console, and it was so shitty I didn't want to play it. But playing it on the PC is completely different.
This is exactly true. This is what James just said. Is exactly how it is. When I was reviewing Dragon Age Origins initially, they sent a PC copy and a 360 copy, so I played them both, and they are such a different experience. The PC version has this tactical combat, and you can pause the game and assign orders to the people in your party and do all this really cool stuff in the game. And the 360 version was like, here, you're playing a third-person RPG. Go hit it with a stick. Mm-hmm. And, so and it seems like this is crazy. This is some crazy tinfoil hat stuff right here, but it almost seems like, I totally admit it. It almost seems like BioWare looked at Dragon Age Origins and said, we had to make the whole console game a third-person RPG anyway, so why are we wasting all that time making the PC version different? Let's just make one version and put it on both consoles.
Well, to be fair, they only had 18 months to make that game, too, right? So that's you're probably pretty close to dead on as to what the thinking was, given the timetable of that game.
Right. Well,
and then all the other aspects of the game that people are mad about, the reused dungeons, the drawn back elements of the mechanics, all that stuff is probably related also to a bad timetable for making a game, basically.
I mean, 18 months is not a lot of time in this day and age of making games.
No.
1997, you can make a game in 18 months. 2007, not so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fair. I think all that's fair. I mean, and the issues with Dragon Age is, toss those out for a second. Let me ask all of you guys this question. Do you think that BioWare has hurt itself enough that Dragon Age sales are going to suffer? Do you think that the people who are mad about Dragon Age 2, who are mad about Mass Effect 3's ending, does BioWare's name have enough weight to carry this game, I guess is my question.
I think it does.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people that are mad about the ending still, they might complain very loudly about, how it ruined Mass Effect 3, but I think deep down people understand that Mass Effect 3 was actually a pretty good game. They had a lot of fun with Mass Effect 3 before, their memories of it were tarnished by the ending. But, I can't really speak to Dragon Age 2 because I never played it. But, I still think BioWare is a great company. And, I will look back at the Mass Effect series pretty fondly, even though I did not really enjoy the ending.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I see where you're coming from, Mitchell, and I know that there are definitely a lot of diehard BioWare fans out there still, even Mass Effect fans. I mean, just wandering around PAX, if there was one kind of cosplay you saw a lot of at PAX, it was probably Mass Effect. Second one, or BioShock, but pretty close. Pretty close, or pretty evenly weighted, I think. There were still a lot of people who were into Mass Effect. So, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely, I think BioWare has definitely suffered some defeats, and that's going to affect Inquisition, no doubt about it. I don't know that it's going to kill it by any stretch. And I'm hoping, actually, that what's going to happen here is that BioWare is doing what they have made it seem like they haven't done at all this whole time, which was learn from those mistakes and take to heart those things that made people upset and not ignore them. Even though they've been all along towing this company line of, the ending was great and people just wish they had a happy ending, and Dragon Age 2 was good, but we, had some problems, but we fixed them in DLC. That denial, I'm hoping, is just a PR front rather than being how they actually feel. Because I think that if Inquisition comes out and it's good, it's legit really good, and it avoids the pratfalls that BioWare has gone through in the past, that they're going to regain a lot of fans.
I agree.
With a good outing. Like, that's all it's going to take. It might not hit the crazy, first weekend sales that everybody seems to live or die by, but I think lifetime sales will be a completely different story. I think I keep saying BioShock, sorry. If BioWare can redeem themselves, more or less, to the satisfaction of a large group of their fans, a lot of people, I think, want to come back. They're just upset, and they feel mistreated, is what it really comes down to. It's not much that Mass Effect was bad. It's that people felt shit on over the whole situation.
Right.
I feel like it's not so much that these things in the past will make it super bad sales. I just believe that if they have one more game, they can't have a third strike. I think
Agreed.
that it's going to be real tough for them if they have another release that fans are really upset with. But I do think everybody is waiting and ready for BioWare to make a really great title.
I do too.
I agree with you completely.
I think you guys hit it on the head. I mean, this is sort of BioWare's chance to kind of rise from the ashes and be like, yes, we look at all the important things we learned from the mistakes we made, to make this game that's really good. I think you're right, Phil. I think that if Inquisition comes out and it is legit good, a lot of the people that are still angry with BioWare are going to be like, okay, it looks like you're making a comeback,
Right.
But I've seen so many people just in our social channels on the site, in the comments, just say, well, I'll probably get Dragon Age Inquisition, but not until I see the reviews and, some people that I trust tell me that it's actually good.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it's legit good, like you said, that BioWare's gonna gain a lot from it. And like James said, I think if it's legit not good, it's really gonna hurt.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna come back from yet another major
debacle.
Disappointment. Like really, as a company, it's just gonna prove to players that what they feared, what they think is the awful internal situation, the culture of BioWare, this pandering to fans but not actually listening to them, this idea that the smartest guys in the room know what's best, and nobody can challenge that's going to really just kill any sort of fan loyalty that remains at least in the people who are on the fence. I mean, there are definitely BioWare fans who aren't going anywhere and haven't gone anywhere through all of this. But there, I think, are people who feel slighted and upset over what the company has become over the last 10 years or so, and they're not excited for another major mess up. So I don't know. I think they could really do well to put out a good game and to be very humble about it, and that'll help.
Yeah. Speaking of companies that, speaking of games with a little bit with DLC that we probably shouldn't have paid for.
Segue.
Wow. Titanfall DLC was announced today.
Frustrated by that.
For $10, you can get 3 multiplayer maps.
And one of those maps is their VR training thing? Did I misread that?
No, that's the VR training. It's that, but blown up into a map.
Yeah, they just said it's basically similar to the VR training, but it's bigger. It's like an actual map.
Yeah. I think that was phoned in, honestly. They're saying that it's everybody's excited for it, but really, why would you want? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm opinionated, but that sounds like shit to me.
Yeah, I mean, as a person who plays a lot of Titanfall, I'm totally not happy with this idea. That $10 for 3 maps for nothing but more maps is really frustrating for me. Titanfall already feels like a game that is anemic. Yeah, exactly. A $60 game that should not have been a $60 game at the start. And really, especially because it's updating with new modes. We're only just now getting private matches and stuff, and yet you're going to start slinging DLC our way? Come on. Release a whole game first, and then we'll talk about paying more for your game.
Let me just say that if you can put your game next to Battlefield 4 and the Battlefield 4 campaign completely outclasses you in every way, shape, and form.
Wow.
There's some things you need to do.
Is the first step to competing on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think you can call Titanfall's campaign a campaign. It's not. It's a multiplayer game. It is basically what Battlefield 1942 was.
Yeah. Right. Except at least Battlefield 1942 had the bots mode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's all that is really frustrating. It's really hard to give a shit about the Titanfall world beyond okay, this is a fun playground, and because of that, I struggle to see. I really think that Titanfall desperately needs single player content yesterday if they want to give that series some serious legs, because if you look at other franchises Halo is a great example. Halo has, and Call of Duty too, but it's not nearly as big as what I'm thinking of. Halo is a game that functions as both a really well populated multiplayer space and a single player space that has a huge world that people are really engaged in. I mean, there are all those novels, there's all this extra side content for Halo. Titanfall really lacks that ability to draw people in. And I really think they should get on creating some kind of compelling single-player content, and that's where they need to expand the game. I don't need no more maps. There's tons of maps in Titanfall. It's only been out for a few months. Let's get something that's going to make the world of the game, the franchise, compelling.
Here's the thing that worries me, is Titanfall right now, remember who made it, right? Respawn made it, originally Infinity Ward. They made Call of Duty. It seems like Titanfall is in that same sort of timeline that Call of Duty was. We're going to release a game, and then we're going to release like a map pack, and then we're going to release another map pack a month later, and then a third map pack, and then we're going to make another game, and then for next year. And I really feel like that Titanfall right now is not a game that can support a sequel.
I totally agree with you. It's a terrible idea, in fact. I think, well, again,
does it not feel like that, though?
The game is not complete in the
private matches are in beta.
I know the form that it's in right now is not a complete game. Like realistically, it's got 5 game modes, 2 or 3 of which are the same. Last Titan Standing and Attrition and Pilot Hunter are really not super different from one another. No. And Pilot Hunter and Attrition are the same game. It's just scored differently. The only really compelling game type, I think, is Capture the Flag. It's the only one that really leverages what makes the game unique into a way that makes you want to play Titanfall instead of something else. And what it really needs to do is come out with more things that make Titanfall a game that stands out from the crowd. And all of this to say that it is too early to be trying to monetize Titanfall. I think they're going to kill it. Yeah. Honestly, I think they're going to make it too expensive and not interesting enough, and the franchise is going to peter out.
Think about it like this. When Phil and I jumped into Titanfall on launch day, and we went straight in and we're like, all right, we're going to play the campaign. It's going to be awesome. And 2 maps in, we're like, what the hell is going on? We don't even know what this is. Are we supposed to go we're supposed to go do something or just shoot people? Or
I started to do a walkthrough. First thing I did when I got Titanfall is I was going to do a walkthrough of the campaign, and I was like, what the shit is this? I stopped the campaign walkthrough, and I half-jokingly want to join back and be like, I know you were all on the edge of your seats for the rest of the story. Let's get this walkthrough completed.
I don't know. It's a strange... I really feel like there's a chance here for Respawn to make a terrible mistake with this game. Because, Titanfall, especially when you're playing it in, like Phil said, in Capture the Flag, and it's going the way it's supposed to go, Titanfall is a game that feels really good. It's a lot of fun.
I really enjoy Titanfall. I really think that there's a lot of potential in that game and the way it's set up. I think it's a great idea to marry those two ideas, the fast parkour combat and the slower, strategic combat of the Titans, if you play it right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Sorry, continue. And I was just wanted to...
No, I totally agree with you. I just think it's going to be... And it's not a game yet that lends itself to, 15 map packs at $10 a piece or whatever. And like you said, it's going to quickly become more expensive than people want to pay for. There's nothing more frustrating. Battlefield is the same way. There's nothing more frustrating than playing with your friends and... the map switches, and you get kicked from the server because you didn't pay $10 or $12 for that map pack yet. So
yeah, and then on top of asking you to pay $10 for assumably more than one DLC pack, and then you hear they're already kind of in the works of making a Titanfall 2. What? Why would I be spending more money on this? Obviously, not you're saying you got to make Titanfall 2 because this game wasn't enough for you, right? Or am I crazy?
Well, this is sort of a sickness that's infecting the entire industry. It's not just Respawn. It's not just Titanfall. I saw a story earlier today where some guy from Ubisoft was talking about Watch Dogs 2.
Well, that was Eurogamer's fault.
That was Eurogamer's fault.
They were like, we're not working on it yet, but if we were to work on it, blah, blah, blah.
It was a dumb question, okay? No doubt about that. But, they're already talking about, I like the idea of going deeper into the theme, the hyperconnectivity, controlling a city. We want to do more with it. I'm like, I think we've reached a point, not just in software, but in hardware, where we were starting to see diminishing returns, right? I mean, it started out with PCs, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you needed a new video card every year. Now you don't, because we're starting to plateau on those things. Because the technology is plateauing, the games are plateauing too. When you made Battlefield 1942 and then you played Battlefield 2, that is a massive jump in quality, right? The game is much better. It looks a lot better, all this stuff. Now, when you're start talking about Titanfall to Titanfall 2, I mean, how do you distinguish that game from the original Titanfall if you're going to make a second one?
Right.
I mean, what do you do? Titanfall 2 now with 3 new Titans in it.
I mean, I think the obvious play is to add a single-player mode. An actual single-player mode. I think that if they do not do that, they're dumb. They're absolutely stupid.
And it needs to be free.
Well, that's what will distinguish Titanfall 2.
No, I think you guys are
Mitchell
making
saying.
Titanfall 2, I see. Oh, Titanfall.
Yeah, I'm saying Titanfall 2 is going to have a
shitty campaign.
I don't know.
I hope not. Let me just hope not. God.
Yeah, in general, I think the constant sequel. Well, I mean, EA has said, they say this in all their profit meetings or whatever. Yeah, their investor meetings each quarter. They talk about how they're a hit-driven company, and so every time they release a game, they're looking toward the next, multi-million seller. That's the plan, right? That, I think, is a really negative way to go about making games in general, because if we have to stop doing this as a culture. Like, I think, sitting around going, okay, so when's Last of Us 2 coming out? Like, that doesn't make for better games. That makes for worse games, And I understand that. Well, I mean, like, I understand that we all enjoy games, and we get invested in the world, and when you play, say, Gears of War and you really enjoy it, you want more of that, and you're excited for when you hear about a sequel. It's like, okay, well, how are they going to take what I liked and improve it? That's okay. I get all that. That's kind of natural, but at the same time, to be sitting here going, so what are you going to do for Watch Dogs 2? It's like we haven't even played the first one. Like, let's focus on making good stuff. Let's focus on making games at a price, a production price that is that makes sense for what they're going to sell. Let's concentrate on making this industry sustain itself, and move forward as a medium rather than just like pummel customers with the same game over and over again until it's not viable anymore.
Right.
Like sequels work a whole lot better if they don't come every damn year, Ubisoft. Because then you can actually like enjoy it and make a thing matter and make it a piece of art. Well, anyway, rant.
Well,
I don't even remember where I'm going. I'm just mad.
I've worked up a pretty good mad now.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's important is it's great to be invested in games. It's great to be invested in worlds. When a game comes along that is powerful enough to get you invested in it, that's a good thing. It's an awesome thing. But then, let's remember that, maybe, just maybe, the story of Last of Us is over, right? And if the public was like, we need Last of Us 2 or else, then, what are we doing? We're killing the game that we loved, basically.
Right.
So,
and how many times has that happened? Where just sequel until it just dies, till like, shit, I don't even like this anymore.
Well, we can't make Guitar Hero anymore because we made 97,000 of them.
Guitar Hero's ruined.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And say what you will, salute to Harmonix for, Rock Band was pretty good with Rock Band 3. We're just going to stop.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then they supported it with DLC for forever, which is great. Like
forever they did DLC, and that's
kind of a great model because you can continue to play that game and like it, and they can still make money off of it.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I would love to see Respawn do with Titanfall. I would love to see Respawn say, hey, we're going to do campaign DLC, like a for real campaign. And then I'd pay $5 for a campaign DLC.
Hell yeah, I'd pay $10 for a
I'd probably
good
pay
chunk
10 for
of
it, too.
single.
I'm cheap, but
Well,
I'd pay $10 for single player more so than I'd pay $10 for 3 new multiplayer maps that I'm not really gonna probably even notice.
you know what? Make the
that's
map.
kind of the point.
That's
Yeah.
great.
You don't even really notice them.
Titanfall is a good game. And Titanfall could be expanded in so many ways with DLC. And you can monetize that. And tell me, seriously, you guys, would you rather spend $30 or $40 over the next couple of years on Titanfall DLC to expand that game and make it bigger and better? Or would you rather pay $60 next year for Titanfall 2?
Well, I mean, that's a rhetorical question, or like, do you really want to answer that?
You don't even have to answer that. It's just,
I mean, it all depends on how it's executed, obviously.
Right.
But, like, to go back to my original point, they're still adding to Titanfall to get it to the point of being like a full game.
Yeah.
You know, they're still looking at adding free additional modes and extra Titans and other things that are going to make it a distinguished, exciting first-person shooter. And until that happens, we don't need another game. We don't even need new maps. What we need is more content to make Titanfall a stronger title before we worry about any of that noise. I mean, we already invested in it, honestly. We already paid more than we should have to play it.
It already feels like the first published early access game.
Right, a little bit. It really does. That's a really good, awful way to put it. Because they're seriously like, I mean, think about it like this. They released the game, and then they were like, you know what? Matchmaking in this game is dumb, and we're going to make a new matchmaking. It's like, you didn't think matchmaking was dumb before you released the freaking game? You didn't figure that part out of your multiplayer shooter that has no other mode? You didn't figure out matchmaking? Are you serious right now? Like, how do you do that? How do you release that game?
Bill, calm
complete.
down. You need to breathe.
No, you're right. I'm sorry.
Get some water.
No, I'm just. It's
Any
just
second now, it's coming.
It's just like you said. It's an early access game a little bit. To get something so fundamentally wrong, so fundamentally important to get that wrong, is just bad. It's a bad indicator, and to start trying to sell us more crap is a worse indicator. So.
Well, I mean, speaking of bad indicators. I don't know if you guys saw that Epic Games is teasing a new project now.
Yeah,
they're teasing a new project that is not Fortnite. Apparently, they have another studio in the another game in the works at the studio that is quote unquote a next gen title that will quote push next gen graphics.
Yeah.
Like, I have a serious problem with that quote. I mean, I'm sorry, Tim Sweeney, because you've done a lot of cool things, but I hate that quote. The idea that what we need, what gaming needs is to push next-gen console graphics.
Well.
Have that. It's called the PC.
Who cares about graphics at this point anyway? Like, I don't know. I don't.
It's the last thing I'm really looking for improvements in right now.
I mean, look, let's face it. What's like one of the best-selling games of the last 5 years, guys?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
That's what you're talking about.
Right.
Angry Birds.
Okay. So Call of Duty.
Yeah, actually, he's right. Mitch is right.
Call of Duty, Angry Birds, Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You can make games that don't have to be ridiculously beautiful or perfect graphics that, make your computer explode to be successful. If Minecraft can sell 40 million copies, make compelling gameplay and people will give you money.
Yeah, or you could just do what Call of Duty did and raise the min specs and still have the same basic graphics so that everybody feels like getting a higher quality game.
Well, yeah, there's always that. There's always the let's use this engine one more goddamn time.
But I couldn't believe I couldn't run Call of Duty Ghosts on my laptop. For what reason? I have no idea. I can run BioShock Infinite on my laptop. Not well, but I can. It won't even let me boot Call of Duty Ghosts.
Ghost has all those new bump textures, though. The rocks look like rocks.
Motion capture dog animation.
Yes.
Next gen fish AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Next gen Super Mario Fish AI. It's absolutely my favorite video ever. Is that one comparing the fish swimming out of the way in Ghosts to the fish swimming out of the way in Mario 64.
Yeah.
And the fish in Mario 64 are more effective at getting the hell out of the way than Mario.
So anyway, that's just one more note in the sort of symphony of why are we doing things this way.
Yeah.
Well, to happier things. Let's move on to happier things. I'm tired of making you feel angry. Well, not really.
I'm okay. I'm done. Now that I've talked about Titanfall and net neutrality, I mean, I'm just exhausted, really.
Yeah. Well, Easter was this past weekend, and Mitch is now creating his personal list of the best Easter eggs ever to appear in video games. Is this right, Mitch?
You could say personal. I would say it's a factual top 10 of all time Easter egg list.
Objectively the best.
Objectively the best.
Like, you just can't argue it. It's science.
Right.
Exactly.
So.
It's all a matter of perception.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna say it's literally the best 10 Easter eggs ever.
And you'd be accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So you'll see that very soon. Very soon. And then I know what I was going to bring up for you guys, because this is really exciting.
I think Mitch should give us an example real quick.
Yeah, good idea.
All right. The one that I'm really sticking with right now that is actually a recent one is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Grand Theft Auto Mount Chiliad mystery Easter egg.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is such a cool Easter egg because of the fact that it's something that pretty much everyone will discover on their own, just going up to Mount Chiliad and saying, hey, what's this mural back here? But the cool thing is that if you actually really think about it, it makes sense to figure out one of Grand Theft Auto's most obscure and coolest Easter eggs, which is the UFO that appears at the top of Mount Chiliad. And so basically what happens is there's a mural on the wall, and if you take that mural and you overlay it onto the map of where Mount Chiliad is, it actually points out locations of where smaller murals are. And they're like little small hieroglyphs. And if you look at them and you're able to put all the clues together of what those little hieroglyphs are trying to tell you, you'll figure out that it says there's a UFO on top of Mount Chiliad at 3 o'clock in the morning while it's raining. And if you go during those exact specific conditions, sure enough, you will see a UFO in the air. Like it said.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's super involved, and yet it's an exciting puzzle to work through.
Right, and there's still more mysteries about it. Like there's actually a subreddit.
Did anybody ever solve it?
No, it's not completely solved yet. There's still people that are trying to theorize what the three little symbols at the bottom are: the egg, the jetpack, and the UFO.
They're probably waiting for it to get solved fully on console before they release PC, because as soon as that happens, people will be able to figure it out quick.
Coming out hope, James.
There's going to be a PC version, or I'm going to riot next year. It's the limit.
Well, let's hope. I mean, never mind. We're not going to go there. Another thing that happened today that I wanted to throw out in front of you guys and see what you thought about it is, there's Square Enix registered a new Just Cause 3 domain.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you.
You guys like that game, right? You're into that. Isn't Jeff
never
into
played
that?
it.
I love that game. I would love to see James play Just Cause 2.
Yeah, I've never played it. I've heard nothing but good things. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say it was a bad game.
Well, the thing about Just Cause 2 is Just Cause 2 is one of those games where you can log in and play for an hour and accomplish absolutely nothing and have a great time. You You log in, you shoot 4 or 5 guys, you grapple your way onto a passing jetliner, use it to parachute out and glide down onto the back of a shark or something. I mean, that's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
So,
Which is what, people talked about liking in Far Cry, but
yeah.
the impression I get is that Just Cause is like that, but cooler.
And it's zanier, I think.
I guess that's what I meant.
Now, I mean, this isn't the first time they've bought domains for Just Cause 3, so it might not mean anything. And let's remember that I'm pretty sure that Avalanche, aren't they working on that Mad Max game?
Oh, I think you're right.
But still, if they were to make another Just Cause game, it would be something that everyone should play, just because it says Just Cause on it. Just Cause.
I see what you mean.
That was good, Ron.
Yeah.
It almost caught me. It's Just Cause 2 multiplayer co-op?
They have a mod that lets you do multiplayer.
Yeah. And you should definitely check it out. It's usually available, it's every like 3 or 4 weeks it goes on sale on Steam for like $5 or something.
Yeah. I have a copy. I've never played it.
I mean, it looks like it's $15 on Steam right now.
Wait for any sale though.
Yeah, I was gonna say anytime there's a sale, you can buy it for like $4. It's just one of those things. So, but anyway, that's a game that I would like to see somebody make, just because I enjoyed the second one so much. See, I'm part of the problem when it comes to sequels.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's
when
okay
it's a sequel
to do
that
sequels.
you want.
It's not about not doing sequels. It's about not doing sequels before, like, immediately, or in a way that devalues the originals.
Right.
Assassin's Creed.
I'm sorry. Mitch sounded like he's got a cold or something. But yeah, Just Cause 2 came out in 2010, so I think they've given it enough time.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's been 4 years. I think you're okay. So, but anyway, I think that's going to wrap up the show for this week. We want to thank everybody for listening, and we want to mention that we may have a special edition of the GameFront podcast coming up early next week, which will feature Phil Hornshaw.
No, not me.
No, yes, you. Phil Hornshaw hosting to maintain order between myself and our GameFront contributor, Phil Owen, as we talk about which Dragon Age game is better. Hint, it's not 2. 2 man enter, 1 man leave.
Yeah,
exactly.
I do not think I'm going to be doing a whole lot of moderating on that. I'm just going to let you guys go. It'll be lots of fun.
Yeah, it should be
Go make a sandwich, make some popcorn, and chill.
So, make sure you keep an eye out for that. Check that out. If you have questions, comments, snide remarks, or you just want to get James Heaney's phone number, you can send us an email, podcast@gamefront.com. Speaking of James Heaney, you can check out Mitch and James on the GameFront YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameFront. And you can follow all of us on Twitter. If you just check out the post right down there, you should see all of our Twitter handles. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.